how to get lasting happiness. Theoretically, if happiness once comes from an object, then that object should always give us the same happiness. But in real life, we find that this is not true. What used to make us happy at one time now gives us misery, whether it is a person or an object. Everyone must have experienced this. People who at one time adored each other later hate each other. They cannot stand each other anymore. Objects that are craved and acquired with great difficulty later produce misery. Even the wealthiest and the most famous people are unhappy and restless, and they are not guaranteed happiness. These occurrences clearly show that happiness is not external and that it does not lie in objects. If happiness is not in the external world, and it is not in people or in objects, then where is happiness? Where does it come from? In order to clearly understand this most important topic, it is necessary to contemplate on the teachings of a wise one who experienced perfect bliss and total peace of mind personally, and who also transmitted that happiness and peace of mind to others who approached him or made mental contact with him. Such a great master is Sri Ramana Maharshi. Here are his words about bliss or happiness. That which is bliss is also the self. Bliss and the self are not distinct and separate, but are one and the same, and that alone is real. In no single one of the countless objects of the mundane world is there anything that can be called happiness. It is through sheer ignorance and unwisdom that we fancy that happiness is obtained from them. On the contrary, when the mind is externalized, it suffers pain and anguish. So says Ramana Maharshi. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? How can there be lasting happiness in things that keep changing? Ramana Maharshi explains further in the following words. If a man thinks that his happiness is due to external causes and his possessions, it is reasonable to conclude that his happiness must increase with the increase of possessions and diminish in proportion to their diminution. Therefore, if he is devoid of possessions, his happiness should be nil. But what is the real experience of man? Does it conform to this view? In deep sleep, the man is devoid of possessions, including his own body. Instead of being unhappy, he is quite happy. Everyone desires to sleep soundly. The conclusion is that happiness is inherent in a person and is not due to external causes. One must realize one's real self in order to open the store of unalloyed happiness. So says Ramana Maharshi. Ramana Maharshi explains the same matter to another devotee in the following words. You can have, or rather, you will yourself be, the highest imaginable kind of happiness. All other kinds of happiness which you have spoken of as pleasure, joy, happiness, bliss, these are only reflections of the Ananda, happiness, which in your true nature you are. Thus explains Ramana Maharshi. Then what is that fleeting happiness we feel sometimes in our lives? Here is the explanation from the Maharishi. The truth is that every time our desires get fulfilled, the mind, turning to its source, experiences only that happiness which is natural to the self. So says Ramana Maharshi. Amazing truth, isn't it? Therefore, if quietness of mind for a fraction of a second, resulting from a satisfied desire, can give us some happiness, why not get to the storehouse of happiness directly and always immerse in it and abide in it? If it is a quiet mind that gives happiness, why not strive to get lasting happiness by directly making the mind quiet? This seems to be the rationale of the Master's words. But in order to rediscover that eternal happiness and abide in it, it is not enough that we understand it intellectually. We also need to turn within and make the necessary efforts. What are the efforts? Meditation and breath control for gaining focus and one-pointedness and to quieten the mind. Self-enquiry to dive deep into the crux of the problem, that is, ignorance of our real blissful self, while taking a phantom ego to be real and not realizing the true reality, our real nature. Since we have forgotten the real self and strayed away from it, we have to rediscover it within ourselves. We normally run around in the external world seeking happiness from people and objects. Instead, we need to turn within and beseech the real blissful being to reveal itself to us. Again, in this regard, Ramana Maharshi offers great advice. He actually read out a stanza from the hymn Tiruvachakam, which is an address to the mind. It is as follows. O humming bee, the mind, why do you take the pains of collecting tiny specks of honey from innumerable flowers? There is the one self from whom you can have the whole storehouse of honey by simply thinking or seeing or speaking of it. Get within and hum to it. Thus, Ramana Maharshi read out the stanza from Tiruvachakam. Therefore, we can see from these words of wisdom from the great sage Sri Ramana Maharshi and from our own practical experiences that happiness is within. So, we should not look for it outside but within ourselves. How can we do that? By following Ramana Maharshi's teachings, by meditation, breath control, and self-enquiry. By these practices, we should quieten the mind and delve deep within ourselves. We should make an effort to know the mind better, observe what it is, and how it operates. We should watch the mind vigilantly. We should investigate as to what it is that obscures the ever-present happiness and causes misery. We should quietly inquire within, who am I? Where does this I rise from? then we will find that it is the ego, the phantom I concept, that is causing all the problems that we perceive and experience. When we get to that point and find out the source, the real self will be realized. So says Ramana Maharshi, who himself experienced pure happiness and abided in perfect peace.